Welcome back to Rigmarole. I'm Clara.
I'm Des.
And tonight we have some awesome tropes that we're going to go over. So just go ahead, if you haven't already, hit the bell, subscribe. We post every Monday.
Alright, so starting off our list of these are 10 trashy tropes we love. I don't think all of them are actually that trashy, but, you know, it's alliterative. So why don't you introduce us to our first one? Our first one is...
Orphan protagonist.
Yay!
So as far as I know, recently, this one's really oversaturated. Agents are not looking for this. If you write this, like, basically they just put down your manuscript. They don't look at it.
It feels very cliched and a kind of lazy way to make a young character sort of have no strings attached so they can go on an adventure, I think, and that's why.
Yeah, that is the usefulness, especially for middle grade novels. That's why they'd use that. Even YA gets into that a little bit because you're not just gonna let your teenage child go off and do an adventure to fight evil.
Yep, but I think orphans can be really well done. I mean, Luke Skywalker and Harry Potter are two obvious examples. Although I will say, I think Harry Potter actually shows a really good example of a situation in which you do not actually need your protagonist to be an orphan to make it work. Fundamentally, Harry is constantly being away from adult supervision other than his teachers because he is being sent away to what is, in fact, a boarding school. And most of the danger comes from the inherent nature of the magical world, even though there's Voldemort there. And, like, you could have that set up even if you had a character with parents. So that's actually one way you can do it. But we don't dislike this trope.
Yeah, I don't dislike it. I love the angst of just being like, I grew up on the streets and all
I
of
had to
that.
learn things the hard way.
Exactly.
My father was a rusty wire cage that I called Papa.
Also, like, especially in fantasy novels, I feel like people just have to introduce everything at once, and they're like, so here's my world, and here's everything that's happening. And, you know, just not having parents is one less thing to introduce.
I don't have to worry about your parents.
Don't have to worry about
It's easy.
Molly
Make it easy.
Sue, who was your mom
and
at one point.
And 10 siblings. Yeah, it's fine.
Yeah, exactly. Please, not the 10 siblings. Oh my gosh. Yeah. Anyhow, so that's what we love about that one.
Alright, our second trope is the wise wizard or the mentor. And you're writing a book with one, so I know you love this one.
I'm writing a book with the mentor as the protagonist instead of in the mentor spot.
Yeah, I think again, this is one that people don't like because of the stereotypes of it, you know, kind of being the Merlin type with a big white beard.
Yeah, I mean, it's been done well. It's also been overdone. So I think that that's the biggest problem that people have, but I do think that if you do a good subversion of this trope, it can still hold its charm and stand up to the test of time.
And what do we like about this, the wise mentor trope?
Just
wise wizard.
Having someone with them along the way, not necessarily like a family figure, but someone like to help them out.
I like an older generational person passing down the torch or teaching someone about the world. I like having a character who's able to provide that kind of exposition and world building and whose reasons for being the authority are because of their experience and age, you know.
Yeah. And like, you don't get to know all the world building, you just get to know what they know, which could not necessarily be true. So it can be used real well in that way.
Yeah.
Okay, for our next one, we don't love love triangles, but we do love unrequited love, which is great. You want to go into that a bit more?
I'm gonna say I just love it. I love pining. I love two characters who are both in love with the other one and don't realize the other one's in love back because they're just too noble about it or whatever. I just love, also, I love unrequited love that isn't framed as like friend zoning or like one character just unable to see the good in this other character or something. I love it when it's just straight up unrequited love. One person just secretly really cares about the other, but for whatever reason doesn't want to say, or it's just not requited, and it's not necessarily anybody's fault. It's just sometimes that happens, and so it feels very real and bittersweet and sad, and I love it.
I do also like, though, when you have the protagonist, the person they're in love with, and then the other person does confess. I do admit I like that.
Yeah, but confessing is also part of unrequited love.
Yeah, but like, then it's just, the answer's no. And there's nothing wrong with that person. There's no reason for them not to like that person. It's just, they don't.
And I think that's more compelling than having the other potential romantic interest be just like a jerk. Like on the one hand you've got the protagonist or like the good love interest, and then you've got the bad love interest. I don't think that's as interesting as them both being legitimately interesting characters, and just one of them just is unlucky. There's something poignant about that.
Sometimes it happens.
All right, our next one is Love at First Sight, which is often one that can bug me, but
okay, I have to say it's extremely unrealistic, but honestly, sometimes when I pick up a book, that's what I want. I want the lack of realism, the suspension of belief.
Sometimes, and also sometimes it just, gosh, it takes them so long to fall in love, and sometimes it's because it's like, well, we want our female character to be the strong, independent woman who don't need no man, and it's like, just let them be in love.
Sometimes it really holds back the plot when you're like, well, we're not sure if they're in love. Just let them be in love from the start, and then like have the external conflicts be the main conflict at that point.
Also, obviously this trope can be very superficial, but I also think there's something very sweet for like certain characters' initial reactions is an immediate interest in another character and their well-being, and in getting to know them despite never having met that character before. And like the way that love can be used as this way to just immediately break through potential bonds of like distrust or miscommunication is, it's interesting, and I think it's interesting to play with that.
I think what really makes it rich is instead of just it being like they see each other, like each other's bodies, like, oh wow, she has like big eyes, or like blah blah blah.
Big eyes, sure.
Big eyes, yeah.
Big eyes.
Instead of that, if it can just be like they were shoveling in the graveyard, that's really creepy. Please don't fall in love with anyone like that. But like if it can be something they're doing.
Necromancer sees the gravedigger and is just like, but
yeah, or like her hair was done in a way that no other girl could wear, or
also,
something like
no
that.
Other girl can be a bad trope, but yeah, if it's like something like unique and quirky, you know, it makes it cute.
I know this is not a high quality book, but I did enjoy it when I read it. The Perfects.
Listen, not all books have to be high quality.
Do you remember the
Uglies? Yeah,
the Perfects. In one of them, the like sub-sequel book, which has a different main character, she has like a big nose, and the guy is just like, I knew she was brave when she didn't have plastic surgery on her big nose. I thought it was cute at the time. In retrospect, it's not that cute.
It's a little silly, but you know, again, it's like, it's one of those things where like the base idea of it can be very sweet.
Yeah,
if done right.
Okay, so next on our trope list is all the tropes, but made gay.
That's it. People love to complain about this. They're like, this is just X trope, but gay. This is just Beauty and the Beast, but gay. This is Pride and Prejudice, but gay. And I know some people don't like things being advertised that way, but I love it. I love even love triangle, but gay. If it's like two guys after one girl, but then plot twist, the two guys end up together or something, or it's in any way, I just love it. Twelfth Night is the best Shakespeare play.
And I personally love. Okay, you want to go into 12th Night and why it's the best? Real quick.
I won't.
Okay,
for a future video.
So for me, I love bromance. It's a Chinese drama. Again, it's kind of like 12th Night in that the other individual in question is not actually a guy,
but the other person thinks he is one.
He thinks he is one. There are some amazing episodes right in the middle of the series where he just goes up to all his guy friends and he is just like getting closer to their faces, testing the waters,
trying to see if he's gay because I'm in love with my friend.
But he's like, no, I just don't like you, and it's great. It's very well done.
I also think sometimes people unfairly act as if trope but gay is just like the exact same thing as the base like straight trope, and it's not, because the way we view gender and talk about it and portray it in media and the power dynamics that might be involved depending on the culture all change it. So like a very simple change like making it gay really can add a completely different dimension to the story. The same with like gender swapping the participants. Like, yeah, it makes you look at it differently, and that's always fun, is to have a trope that makes you look at it in a different way.
It takes things from rote consumption to processing. You have to think about it. So it's good.
And it's good. Yeah.
Okay, our next one is Enemies to Lovers, done right. but done right. So not the abusive kind. What do we love about
I would
this?
actually say I think I disagree with most people who frame any enemies to lovers as abusive, because abuse is what happens when you have fighting and uneven power dynamics within a relationship. And the whole point about enemies to lovers isn't so much we like these characters fighting. It's more of like we like the idea of these two characters who seem like they are on opposite sides of a conflict, learning that they are really similar or on the same side, and turning, and that's the whole point, is that it's enemies to lovers, not enemy lovers. It's you start being on opposite sides, and then you start to grow closer to each other, and then you end up in love. And there's something very sweet and kind of inherently subversive about that that I like. I like the resolution of enemies being love and not hate and violence.
Yeah.
Obviously, it depends on the kind of villain you've got, though. Like, if it's Hitler, no.
Yeah, that would be a bit extreme. But yeah, I think that we really like that romanticizing of two different hierarchies. They should have two different viewpoints, and yet people are just the same. And we like that.
Yeah. So our next one is Babies Ever After. And I say this as someone, I personally don't like the enforced heterosexuality of lots of endings, and especially endings where every single character has to be paired up. I don't like the assumption that romance has to be the end and the only, the happiest ending for every story. That being said, I do love the trope of Babies Ever After. I love the idea of characters, especially characters who have just had a really hard time and struggled to get there, not only living and being happy, but being able to raise a child who's kind of this symbol of new life, and often of, if they are a couple that can have children together, of both of their experiences and personalities being kind of combined and creating something new. There's again, it's I like the sweet stuff, and it's sweet.
Yeah,
it can be very well done.
It
can be badly done, but it can be
well done. It can be very badly done. It can be wrecked. It can be a train wreck. But
I didn't need to see every single member of Harry Potter's class and all of his friends meeting at King's Cross Station with all their kids. It was, anyway.
That was a bit much.
Was
a bit much. I didn't expect all of them to get married. They were just all married to each other. That was intense. But yes, I do appreciate the scene with his own son. Though that was nice.
Yeah.
So,
though his middle name should have obviously been Hagrid. But I won't talk about that. Go on.
Okay, but anyhow, that's our thoughts on babies.
Yes. All right, this next one is Immoral Protagonist, which I guess people like complaining about, because if your main character does something bad and you like the main character, you also like that bad thing, which is not true.
Yeah, that's not true. Immoral Protagonist, so it's not just that they're gonna do whatever the heck they want, although there are some like that. But a lot of immoral protagonists actually do have qualifiers where they do fall into patterns, and they seem like they have no morals, and yet they're not willing to go hurt a small child, or they specifically won't hurt, I don't know, a
woman or
someone marginalized or something like that. Yeah.
And it's important because they show that there's more to villains and heroes than pure black and white morals, which is important because it's important to be able to see the flaws in a protagonist and the good things potentially in a villain. And also, sometimes you can just have a great main character who is completely irredeemable or unlikable. I really like Stephen King's Survivor type. I don't usually like Stephen King, but I do like this book. The main character is an absolutely horrible, self-centered person who only cares about himself and is obsessed with this idea of his own superiority over the others, and he is trapped on a desert island where he slowly cannibalizes and eats himself, all the while recording in his diary about how cool and tough he is compared to all these other people who couldn't survive. And you can tell that he's sort of using his own self-centered thinking as a way to bolster and justify, and kind of, it's for himself so that he feels that he can get out of the situation. And it's a delightfully horrible read because he's such a horrible person, and sometimes that serves the story best.
Yeah. I think that actually goes right into another one of our tropes, which is the black and white villain. The one that has just they're evil because they're evil because evil is evil is evil.
Yes.
Is evil.
I love complex heroes, I love complex villains, but sometimes your villain can just be evil. I think sometimes people, it's like, while I like complex villains, I think some people go too far into thinking that every single villain needs to be secretly redeemable or have secret moral
Not
things.
always.
And like, they can just be a jerk. They can just be for the evil. There's nothing wrong with that. Like, sometimes you just need a villain to come in and twirl their mustache and tie someone to the railroad tracks and to like swirl their cape as they leave and be as dramatic and evil as possible, and that's it.
Yeah, we were talking about Doofenshmirtz. He's just there building his aiders and aiders. And
I'd argue that he's also very
aiders.
nice and like stuff, so I don't think he's quite as evil. But
I don't
like,
think,
yeah,
but like he's just
the stereotypical bwahaha villain at times, and it's funny.
just like he's a villain because he's evil.
Because he's evil. It's a circular reasoning, and it's fine.
Yeah.
Also, Tamatoa from Moana. He's just a big, evil, greedy crab who wants to eat people. There's no parts in his like song Shiny, which is like one of the best Disney songs
It's
ever.
really disturbing.
It's wonderful, and there's no part where he's like, I was a drab little crab once, but there's no part where he's like, and I'm just doing this to make me feel better about myself because secretly I have low self-esteem. It's like, no, he's just shiny, and that's it, and that's fine. It's great.
Yeah, that's how it be. Okay, so last but certainly not least on our trashy tropes that we love. Again, if you haven't hit the subscribe already, remember to do that before you leave. Just do it right below and hit that bell. So let's talk about the jerk falls in love with the sunshine person.
I just love it. This is another one that I think people like to like be like, this is abusive, and I'm like, okay, it can be abusive. I would say it's more like certain abusive tropes can be presented as this, but fundamentally the idea of like a jerk person falling in love with a soft sunshine person is just, again, it's sweet and it's nice, and it's a subversion of the expectation that like you fight fire with fire, or that people who are mean are always mean and don't ever like anything soft and sweet. And I like it. I like the opposites attract. I like the idea of a character who is normally mean to people either learning to be a good person or sort of begrudgingly realizing that they've fallen in love with this one nice person. And I especially love it when it's like the character in, you know, when the jerk does not want to admit it.
I also love this trope. I do also love the sunshine taking on a couple of the qualities of the jerk person, like them suddenly learning how to rage or something like that. That's pretty satisfying to see that development in their character, where they are like this ray of sunshine and they just want everything to go right in the world, but man, if you mess up with their people, they're going to shank you.
Yeah.
So I do love the transformation going both ways. I just love that.
They make each other better, you know?
Yes. They complement
nice.
each other.
And that's what love is about.
On that definitive statement, we're gonna end for this week. So thanks
Tell
again.
us what some of your favorite trashy tropes are below.
Yes, and thanks again for watching Rigmarole. Hey, welcome back to Rigmarole. I'm Clyde.